Well, now that was a lot closer than we expected there, but the boys got it done. We got the 2 points. We're up into the top 4. We got the bye week now to get all refreshed and then start that run home. Let's take a look how the Warriors beat the Raiders. Hey team, welcome back to the Warriorholic. Off the back of a very heartfelt win there on Friday night up at Mount Smart. A lot tighter than anyone ever thought. Well, in reality, if we were honest with ourselves, the Raiders get down and dirty. All of their games are close. None of them, apart from our last game against them, have been big blowouts over the past sort of 7 or 8 weeks. So we should have expected this kind of encounter. And to be honest, I'm happy we got it. If we'd gone in there and blown them away by 40 points again, I don't think it does us that much good. I'd much rather we learnt to, get into one of these grinds, deal with a bit of adversity, but come out on top, and we sure did that. So before I get into my usual stats, comparing both teams and so forth, I heard something interesting on one of the Raiders podcasts earlier in the week. The only time the 5-day turnaround has resulted in a win is generally when both teams are coming off the back of 5 days. So from that aspect, I think we really need to bear in mind that we had 5 days, they had 13 days with the bye. So that played a big factor. The other thing, for those of you who watched my interview with Chans earlier in the week, he was really crook. Chatting with Jazz last weekend when we were meant to catch up, he couldn't even come to the game, he was so crook. And they said that it's just been going through the team. Toe had it last week. So, that's a bloody good effort. When you've been off the back of flu or still dealing with the flu like Chance was, to put in that kind of effort, particularly with the lack of possession we had. So I'm really proud of the boys. We got close to blowing it there at the end, but we held them out, got into Golden Point, and we just delivered the absolute perfect set there to win the game. So I'm not making excuses. I just think that's something we need to bear in mind, particularly for those people who sort of think the Warriors have fallen off the wagon a bit. There's a lot behind what went on in that game, so I'm just proud that we got it done and got the 2 points in the end. So another couple of factors. Obviously, we lost near quarter there at the 20-minute mark, so that was another good effort to deal with an intense game like that up against a very big pack stacked with middles on the bench with only 3 guys in our forward rotation there. But just looking quickly at the Raiders, I thought, they probably lacked a lot in attack when they were in our red zone. We defended a heck of a lot of tackles, and I'll tell you how many in a moment, within our red zone, and they've really struggled to get anything manufactured across our line other than kicks. So I've got to give it to Fogarty. His kicking game was outstanding. Those torpedo bombs that he put up, I would say, are as good as anyone in the comp, and probably better than even Burden and Cleary this season. I just haven't seen that many coming from them. But we had about 3 balls that just tapped the ground because no one knew where it was going to land. But also pinpoint kicking into the end goal there. The try for Rapana was, right on the spot. So that was a really good effort from him. I thought Jack Wyden's passing and his involvement in that last sort of 20-minute onslaught was really good and showed his experience. And you've got to give it to their middles. Papali'i, Tapene, Hawes Big Red to a certain extent. Even their edges, they really ground out and took it to us, their bench as well. So it was a very combative effort from them. But without a doubt, Timoko was their star. Chris as well, I think, on defense there, got involved a couple of times in the attack as well. But Timoko, every time he got that ball, man, he's lightning. Looking forward to seeing him in a Kiwi jersey. But you take him out of that side there, and I think it's a very different result because a lot of his breaks are what gave them the momentum or gave them field position. So well done to him. So now looking at the actual stats from the game, 21-20 to us. 3 tries to us to their 4. Kicking was the difference in the end, so well done to SJ there. Possession-wise, well, actually, as I go through these, you're going to see there's not a huge difference in a lot of the stats, but I'll point out a couple of the really key ones that I think impacted on the whole way the game felt there, particularly in the second half. So 46 to 54% doesn't seem like they had a huge amount of possession over us, but the completion rate, 77 versus 80, looks the same, but then when you see how many sets, they had 45 sets versus our 40, and completed 36 over our 31. So that's 5 more completed sets. in a game, which is huge, and we'll see it at the moment with the number of tackles in possession, or tackles made, sorry, was even bigger. So looking at the attack here, all run meters very similar. Just a couple of hundred in it there over a period of games, not too huge. Post-contact meters very similar. Line breaks the same. Tackle breaks, they had a lot more tackle breaks to that. Out of 37, I think Timoko probably got about 25 of them. Man, he's hard to put on the ground. That boy Tapine as well. Average set distance, very, very similar there. So what do we got here? Kick defusal. I think that was something that we clearly saw as an issue for us there with those balls hitting the ground. Only 62% there. 6 bombs for him, and I think we probably only caught 3 of them. So that's something we really need to work on coming into the final few games and into the finals. We make it up against those big kickers like Mitchell Moses, Cleary if we come up against those two, and Foggett if we come up against them again. Rightio, defence here, 90% tackle efficiency from us, which you wouldn't really have thought it'd be that high, given it seemed like we missed more tackles than it probably showed there in that tackle efficiency there. But this is the one I want people to have a think about here. 418 tackles for us versus 343 made by them. That difference equates to about 7 sets worth of tackles that we made more than them. And that particularly came in that last 20-minute period, that from I think it was minute 22 in the second half, for 6 minutes we didn't have the ball in our hand. We just defended and defended and defended and defended. So when people talk about us falling off a bit at the end there, off a 5-day turnaround with the flu, any other team I think is completely gassed and probably gets run out of that game earlier. So our resilience on that line to hold them out, granted they weren't spinning it that wide and really challenging us just to make those tackles and stay in the game and still have the energy to win it in Golden Point, absolutely outstanding. And given how many tackles we made, the 37 missed tackles there versus 21, it's not too bad. And like I said, half of them will probably come from Timoko. But the key point for me, I'm going to keep saying, is the places we're missing tackles are not costing us tries. Ineffective tackles there, 9 versus 5. And I think that's just, we saw some good palm-offs from the guys. Rapana, I saw put a couple on there. So then we get into the negative plays. Back up into the double figures for the year. It was only 6 last week. 11 is probably, what you'd expect. And a bit more of a free-flowing game. I think we've really got to focus on that and keeping it down under into the single figures there. And to be honest, before I saw that stat, I was expecting it to be higher because, we had some really standout ones in that first half where we were just trying to get that try a little bit too early. We'd make the break, we'd make a good advancement, and we just needed to be a little bit more patient and play the ball, a couple more times before we tried that miracle pass. We saw one from Berry, we saw one from SJ, we saw a couple from Metcalf. If we didn't panic those or a couple more of those stick, it could have been a very different outcome. But yeah, that's something I really think we need to work on. I was quite surprised by the penalties conceded in the ruck infringements. Actually, we were ahead on that. Obviously, they got the more of the 10 inside 6 agains, because there was a period there in the first 20 minutes after we scored our first try. They seemed to be constantly getting those infringements, which meant they had a lot of the ball in the first 20 minutes as well. So, we've really, really got to be mindful of that. And that last 20 minutes where they really put their onslaught on us, that was on the back of those penalties where we kept giving them piggybacks out of their red zone. SJ would put in a really good kick into the corner there, or even like taking the tackle on the 5th right on their line and having them try and fight it off out, and then giving away that penalty. And that's how they ended up right up on our try line there and put all those sets back to back on us. So something we've really, really got to be mindful of going forward. It's not something we've done for a while. So yeah, definitely got to watch the penalties when we come up against the better teams. So now if we look at the player stats here, tackles made, I thought I had to show this, mate. Hallsborough, 60 tackles from Big Red. Oh, he's funny. He's a guy who can be a dick at times, and we saw the way he put on that cheap shot on Curran, which really pissed me off. but I do like him. He's an interesting guy. He's got that point of difference, but 60 tackles, mate, that's got to be commended. But Egan there, right up there with 55, and Ford had over 50 as well. AFB, 205 metres for a prop, beating all of their outside backs, 196 there from Hopewadi. Absolutely outstanding. Interesting, like the line breaks, they had 2 to Rapana and 1 to Chance, but we didn't have one person making a lot of line breaks, but we did manage to get a few out there. So there's, a few guys who got the single one. So, like I said, a lot of the stats show that the game should have been close, and it ended up that way. So let's have a look at our boys and give them a bit of a rating. As always, starting out with Chance at the back there. Look, on the back of him having the flu and the amount of work he did, it's probably not his best game of the season. But as far as what you could expect from a guy in that sort of condition, I couldn't ask for much more, so I've given him a 9. And people might say, you're marking high here, but honestly, if you're looking at an average game from a player in the NRL, you might have those 10 out of 10 games where everything's just absolute magic. We've seen a few of those this year. But if you look what you're generally expecting from a player in their position, for me, I think these guys are exceeding that every week. And I think there's not much more we could have asked from Chance on the weekend. So I give him a 9 out of 10, 194 running metres. The amount of times he's taken 2, sometimes 3 hit-ups off a set, when you can see he's just clearly gassed. A couple of times he just couldn't move after making a couple of those runs. He stood there, looking at the ground with his hands on his knees for about 30 seconds to a minute, just trying to get that little bit of energy to keep going. Post-contact meters 69, 13 tackles. That's a lot for him. He's normally around the 6 to 8 mark, and just the 2 misses there, so that was a really good effort on defense again. Line breaks the 1, line break assist 5, which is really good, and the try for Chance. So well done to him. Continues to deliver at a really, really high standard. Next up, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Well, this is a game he had a really big impact on, but, not from his normal, acrobatic tries. I think his efforts on defense and his runs out of the, the dirty runs there. You'll notice his meters are down a little bit this week, but I think that's a reflection. He was taking the first hit up and running straight into 3 or 4 forwards at times. So just the 92 meters there, 28 post contact, 7 tackles made for 1 miss, 1 line break, 5 tackle breaks, and a try. I've given him 8.5. Again, I don't think you can ask for a heck of a lot more from a winger in a game like that. I just love the way he's continuing to progress. I heard an interview, what do they call it, the ditch, I think it was, somewhere it popped up on social media, saying he was almost close to retiring from the game at 25 when he left the Bulldogs. They chopped him and he thought he'd never find somewhere else to go. And to think, a few years on, he's delivering at probably, arguably the best of any winger in the competition right now. So well done to him. Like I said, not his most impactful game all season. Hence, he's got the 8.5, not a 9, but still an outstanding effort. Montoya, I've given him an 8. I thought he was actually a little bit better than last week. I think I gave him a 7.5 last week. He's still, I guess it's just the nature of our game is going to the right a lot. So he's not getting the same attacking opportunities as we see from DWZ, but 160 metres there, 54 post contact, 3 tackles, no tackles missed, and 1 line break. That's a reflection that their play didn't come a lot in his direction either. But again, he did everything that we could ask of him at a really high, NRL standard. So he gets an 8 out of 10 for me. Rocco Berry. A lot of people I know, they're going to focus on that pass that he sent to Dallin, and it, sort of was a bit too far out in front of him. But I ask you people, look at the one that he did make to put Dallin away for that try. He literally had that ball in his hands for like a half, not even, 1/20th of a second or some bloody thing. The speed of that and the accuracy to put him in that corner. Ever since I heard Webby talking about them targeting the kicks for Dallin and Rocco to chase, I've been watching him. And last night, the speed he gets up there and the timing of his tackles when he's not able to compete just nails a guy as soon as he hits the ground. If he's not there just in time, he makes that legs tackle. He always makes the next tackle. Again, man love for this boy. I just like the way he's really progressing. I'm really curious to see who ends up on that other side from RTS next year, whether it's him, Pompey, or Ali Leotao. Very interesting. But yeah, 18 tackles at centre. He's normally, a centre might be making around 10 a game, and no miss. The guy can defend. Line break assist 1, try assist 1, and 3 tackle breaks. I've given him an 8.5 purely because of that glaring error there that a lot of people will focus on. But again, I don't think there's much more we could have asked for him on the weekend. Adam Pompey, I think he's had one of his better games of the past sort of month or so. I've given him an 8.5 as well. He had his biggest running meters. Actually, Rocco Berry back there. He had 134 meters, which was his biggest running meters of the year as well. Pompey with 122. He's very rarely been over 100 this year. He really got involved a lot. 50 post-contact meters is a really good sign from him because, like I've said, he's always struggled to make those post-contact meters for a guy his size. This is the one for me. 21 tackles made. We never see that from Pompey. 21 tackles and just 1 miss. Outstanding from the big fella. 1 line break assist, and 3 tackle breaks. I've given him an 8.5. I still feel like there's a little bit more in him. I still feel like he could hit the line a little bit harder, but geez, very, very good game there up against Timoko there. While he did make a few breaks there or sort of, bust a few tackles, I think Pompey and Ford really combined well to control him. Luke Metcalf. I feel for the young fella. It definitely wasn't his best game. It was a little bit of a regression over the form we've seen over the past few weeks and his score. Look, overall, I think he had a relatively good game, particularly on defense. Taking Papali'i one-on-one at full speed and actually not getting bumped off, staying on him and getting him on the ground by himself. He hits into some of those big forwards on our try line just as hard as SJ does. He just doesn't have the same weight behind him. So, look, I could have given him a 7, but I think we just, we have to acknowledge that some of those passes and drop balls, they just aren't up to his standard. And I've really felt like he struggled to get his timing right on attack. As a result, our left-hand edge didn't really get in sync all game. Pompey, the timing of the ball he receives wasn't quite good. That little play where we got caught with the play of the ball without a dummy half there. So, and Pompey had to jump into dummy half. Those little things here, the left-hand side just really wasn't in sync. You got to put a little bit that down to your half on that side. So just the 45 running meters. He's been up around 100 the past couple of weeks, the 10 post-contact. 21 tackles made, though. That's a lot. Tackling big boys, but he did miss 5. And he had, I think it was 4 ineffective tackles as well. 3 errors, 3 handling errors, 1 line break and 1 tackle break. Like I said, not his greatest game, but still, I think he's the kind of kid who'll learn from that. He'll put in the work. Let's see what happens. I really don't think they'll rush Tamati Martinen without any game time in Cup. So I think he gets another shot after the bye there. But if he does, I really, really hope he steps it up again and sort of shows that he is the man who should be in that position because he does offer a point of difference. If not, we could see Tamati Martin come back over the coming weeks. Shaun Johnson. Other than that pass to Niakore that I think if Niakore is not concussed, he probably took, which led to the Young try. Another elite level game from SJ. I don't think people realise the subtleties him and Egan are bringing to our attack, particularly in the opposition attacking zone. You see the ground he covers to be first receiver when we're in the red zone on both sides of the field. He's just getting around there. His ability to get that back line set off the back of fast plays of the ball to set up that try like we saw from Chance or from Dallin on the weekend. Listening to old Joel Kane, Shug on SEN last week, he talked about there's a play that we've got going on now that when we get a fast play of the ball, we're putting 2 bodies or 2 runners in motion running at the player inside the centre, and like basically one on either side of the one on either shoulder of their edge back rower there. And SJ's taken the ball so far into the line, it just means that the centre has no choice but to turn in towards one of those 2 players coming in to support his inside man. That creates that space that we saw Chance go through. They know it's coming, And when Joel pointed out, you see it. It's just such a really, really well executed play for us to get through those gaps without hitting shoulders or taking guys out, particularly the guy on the inside shoulder there. So SJ is doing just some subtle, absolute genius work. Again, his defense, monstrous. And again, to ice that game at the end, that droppy, his first droppy to win a game at Mount Smart over all his years, is just a great milestone for him to get again. So what have we got there? Kicking meters, not his biggest at 360, 181 meters run, 3 from 4 goals, the droppy, a try assist and a line break assist. I give him a 9 out of 10. Again, how many other teams would like exactly what he delivered at that level right now from a half, or particularly a 7? I don't think there's anyone delivering, at that level every week out there. I know we've got the likes of Reynolds and so forth, Moses, but I just think the level that he's maintained that at. So it might not be that 9.5 close to 10 performance that we've seen over the year, but I couldn't ask for more, so I've given him a 9 again. Adam Fanor-Blake, what a beast. He only played the 48 minutes last night, which kind of surprised me because it felt like he was out there all day. 205 metres, 89 post-contact metres. So his post-contact metres were more than a lot of the forwards in the game actually ran. 18 hit-ups, 34 tackles made for just the 3 misses. 9.5 because you just can't ask for more than that. To see him and Tohu always involved in those big plays, that final set in Golden Point, those two guys are involved. Adam Fanor-Blake getting that play into the absolute perfect position for SJ to kick the goal on the left of the post there. Couldn't ask for more. It's great to see the Aussie media now really starting to acknowledge that he is the leading prop in the game. They might mention Payne Haas in there, but given the fact that he's played every game this season, I think right now he's got to be close to being the Dalian prop of the year. It really comes down for me between him and Payne Haas, and hopefully with Payne Haas having a few games out, might give him a hope. Mitch Barnett brought into the lineup at the last minute to start at prop. I'm not 100% sure I like it. I think in a game like last night, I would have been curious to see how Bunty went in defence there. Like I said, I really rate him to absorb that first sort of 15 to 20 minutes. He only ended up with 13 minutes there. Taking the sting out of the defence there and allowing a guy like Barnett to come off the bench when the opposition props are a little bit tired. I know he hits hard and I know he gets through a power of work, but it's just something I felt like I really like him coming off the bench in that middle role. 59 minutes played, 128 metres, 60 post contact, 11 hit-ups, 34 tackles with the 4 misses, 3 line breaks. It didn't stand out as his best game of the year by any stretch of the imagination, but just absolute quality. And I had to give him an 8.5 just purely on the energy he puts into each tackle. He's just the guy who's always there out of the middle forwards to take those dirty hit-ups when we're not quite getting the momentum or the back three haven't quite made it through the line and we're still stuck heavy in our half. He'll always come in there for those hit-ups and he'll make those post-contact meters. So outstanding for me again. Wade Egan, again, his subtleties out of dummy half outstanding. It's weird. You feel like he had a quieter game because he didn't run so much, but 82 minutes, 26 running meters, which is down by about 50 meters, but 55 tackles with only 4 misses. 1 line break assist, 1 try assist. Maybe I should have actually gone and given him a 9 because just purely on that defensive effort and the fact he played 82 minutes. You don't see that a lot from hookers these days. He's just a complete asset. And if we're going to go well in these finals, he's got to be out there. Lussick's a good sort of cover if you have to have him there, but geez, he's world class at the moment. So, like I said, I probably could have given him a 9 in reflection. Next up, Jackson Ford, another man who played 82 minutes last night. He gets better every week, more and more solid. His effort areas, like I mentioned with Barnett, that Ford is one of those guys who's always there to take a hit up when we aren't quite getting that momentum on. jumping in there, but just his effort areas and the amount of ground he covers on defence. 51 tackles there with just the 5 misses. But again, his tackles involved, or the amount of tackles he's involved in, I would say be closer to a bloody 100. Those are just the main tackles he's credited for. So I think he's been a genuine one of the finds of the year. You know, we know how much a big of an impact the guys like Niakore, Barnett, CNK and the like have had. Dylan Walker, you know, because there was a lot expected of them. We probably paid a lot more for them when they come. No one expected Jackson Ford to be our guy. You know, everyone's like, oh, he's going to be a reserve grade, you know, bench warmer. The guy's just turned out to be an absolute beast, and I think that's probably one of the reasons we're going to be, you know, at this stage we're quite good in the cap, because we've probably picked a guy like him quite cheaply. But he's going to increase in value very, very quickly if he maintains his form over the next couple of years. So I give him an 8.5. You know, I said at the start of the season I had a bit of a man crush on him when I saw the impact he had against with those runs against teams like the Knights. He had a bit of a down patch there where he was conceding a lot of penalties and, you know, sin bins and the like. But, yeah, just continues to become an ultra-professional guy that reminds me of someone like Michael Luck back in the day. You just know he's going to get that work done. He might not be the biggest, flashiest player out there, but you just know he's going to guts it out. Niakore, just the 20 minutes, which is a real shame because I felt like he's having a physical presence out there. You know, 16 metres in one post contact doesn't seem like a lot, but 11 tackles and just the 2 misses in that 20-minute period. You spread that out to 60 to 80 minutes, that's a lot of tackles he would have got through, and they were counting as well as a tackle break, a line break, and that try. So I gave him 7, even though he only played 20 minutes. I just thought he had a real presence there. We're lucky we've got the bye next week because obviously he'll be off for that 11-day stand down, which means he won't be doing a lot of training. So again, he's going to come back into those last 5 rounds very, very fresh, with a lot of energy in those legs. So hopefully he has no issues with the recovery there, and he's back up into it really quickly. Tohu Harris, 9 out of 10. I don't think, I think 8.5 might be the lowest I've given him all season. He's just an absolute clinical beast in the amount he delivers. 54 minutes. Only the 90 running meters this week, which was a little bit of a surprise, but made up for it on defense here with 50 tackles and just the 3 misses and the 1 tackle break. He just played that leadership role. I think the run he made in that final set and in extra time there, we were making progress. We got up over to the halfway line. I think it was on tackle 3. It must have been tackle 2. And it was that tackle the run he made against a really set line there, where he just managed to step to the right there and got that extra sort of 5 or 6 meters and the quick play of the ball. Then it went Dylan Walker and then it went AFB that got us up into that zone. Just the little things he does like that. He's just the consummate professional. So I've given him 9 out of 10. Absolute beast. Nothing more I could ask. All right, jumping onto the bench there, we had Dylan Walker for 43 minutes. I gave him 8 out of 10. I don't think he quite had as much of an impact as he had last week. He got that clash of a knee there, which is a bit of a worry for a while there. It looked like they were looking at an ACL or something, but it was just like, a knee on knee, and he ran that out quite well. He gets in heavily involved. You don't notice him as second receiver there a lot of the time because you're so focused on SJ. But he's definitely got the ball playing skills there. He always makes an impact when he comes on. I'm really curious to see if Jazz, I heard from him that he's looking to be back ready to play after the bye round. He said he may end up in cup. This was just his own opinion because of how well the boys are playing. But man, I'm looking forward to seeing him and Dylan make that combination on the bench because they just bring so much energy. Just remembering what they both did to the Cowboys up there. So Josh Curran, he's, I went through a bit of an up and down with him, hearing that, he was having a few, I don't know if it's attitude issues. He felt, he wanted out of the club a little bit last year, and then he, sort of had a drop down out of there. And I just wondered whether his heart was really in it. Obviously would have dealt with a lot with that court case and the like. But over the past few weeks, I think was it against Canberra that he ended up playing centre. I can't remember the game. They ended up playing almost the whole game at centre. But from that point on, it just seems like he's had a chip on his shoulder. He's trying to prove that he should be starting. And I think he's got the ability to start, but I just love the energy he brings off the bench. It's just, he makes such a big impact every time he comes on. 48 minutes here, I've given him an 8 out of 10. Probably could have given him an extra half a point there because of some of those tackles he put on. That one where he folded him over. I can't even remember who it was that got nailed because I was so focused on Hallsborough beating him up at afterwards. But there was some definite feel in those tackles. And on our try line there, he was making 2 or 3 in a row at times by himself. So really good game from him. One of his best real forward grinding efforts you would want to see. Bailey Sirenen just at 23 minutes, and I gave him a 7 because I felt like he did have an impact. You're definitely noticing him out there. At times earlier on the season when he came in on an edge, it felt flat. He didn't feel like he was contributing huge. But after he started going to that dummy half role when we needed him, I thought that sort of gave him some confidence. And he just, I watched him put some serious shoulders into ribs on Friday, which made me smile. Again, it's sad that he's moving on, but I just hope, he finishes on a high here. I gave him a 7 out of 10, just purely based on the lack of minutes there. And Bunty was interesting, just the 13 minutes in such a confrontational game, but I think that's a reflection of how many minutes Tohu AFB and Mitch Barnett can make, and you want those 3 guys out there as much as possible. So again, I kind of like the idea of having Bunty going in to start, so that way you're only having to rotate those 3 guys in the back 60 of the game, rather than sort of, you get into a tight game like we had last night, that potentially you don't want to take our top players off because of their experience and because of what they deliver, but then you're certainly taking a lot out of their tanks by giving them those big minutes at the end. So I wasn't a fan in the beginning, but I'm kind of curious to see where the Bunty does perhaps against teams that don't have such a big confrontational pack like the Raiders do. I think you may see him start a little bit more. So how do we sum this one up? Again, it was kind of like one of those, grimy semis that aren't clinical, but they're just very confrontational. There's a lot of aggression. There's a lot of, impact. They're very tight. They have the ebbs and flows. I think we saw that from this game, and we won it. So many times over the past 5 or 6 years, we'd get out to a lead, they'd run us down, we'd go to that golden point, we wouldn't get it done. To be fair, we've done it against the Raiders a few times now where we've run them down and SJ's kicked those goals, but I just felt like it was so good that you could see, like I said, 66 more tackles. That run there in the last 20 minutes of the first half before golden point, all we did was defend. The boys looked absolutely shot. Webby said he walked up to them. He said, you just got to deliver in the key moments here. And they just looked at him and said, we've got it. And you have to think, when Croker was lining up that kick, if they'd won it, I would have been pissed off. And I was thinking about how I was going to hide down a hole for a couple of weeks. But he missed it. And that probably kind of, had an impact on their mental state. I don't know. I just felt like they were on a run. But our boys, we managed to get it done. We saw Fogarty after, such a good night kicking to just put that a little bit too much on it. Chance to have the professional mindset to get that foot back into the end goal. And what a clinical 7 tackle set to get up and to get into position against that big middle stack 4-pack. I'm absolutely I'm absolutely ecstatic. By all accounts, other than Niakore's head knock, Dylan seems fine. We didn't come out of that with any injuries. Jazz should be back for the next game. Kossi's probably about another 2 or 3 weeks away, I believe. Tamari Martin, I still haven't really heard any confirmation, but the talk was always that he'd be coming back after this round. I would probably expect both of those 2 guys to start out in Cup, but I expect a bit of a union sort of rest and rotation policy here. We've had, I think we got about 5 guys there who've played every game this season. We've got to give them a chance to recharge the batteries, particularly Tohu, particularly AFB. SJ as well seems to be struggling with that little bit of a niggle in his ankle that, we get that next win and really solidify us up there, or maybe the one after that. I wouldn't be opposed to giving Volkman or Tamati Martin some time for a game, or even on the bench, because as well as SJ's playing, one injury, you take him out of the heading in, right the week before the finals, and no one else has had experience in that 7 jersey all season. That's a huge risk. So I'd kind of expect to see something like that. Some of our forwards have played bigger minutes. Particularly, again, it's Tohu and AFB for me, because Niokore, Ford have both had their suspensions. Dylan Walker's had his injury breaks. Jazz will be coming back in really, really fresh. So I really think it's those three for me. You look at a guy like Montoya or Pompey, they've both, I think, played every game. But again, out in the backs, they don't look overly lethargic. I'd expect they will probably play. I don't see any indication that Ali Leotoa is coming back anytime soon. Maybe if Kossi came back into contention, he might get a run there instead of Montoya or something. Who knows? But I just think we've got to get ourselves fresh. We've got to maintain this. We're one player back. Jazz gets back, or Tamati Martin gets back. That's our full squad. This is the closest I think we've been since round one to having our best team on the park. If we can do that, I don't think there's anyone we can't beat. Once we get to the finals, do I feel confident we'll win every week? No. It's a lottery once you get there. But if we can get into that top two and get 2 shots at it here in Auckland, dreams, people. We're in that window, probably a year or two ahead of what anyone believed, even probably Webby in his best dreams. We've got a year ahead of us next year with Tohu and SJ to really make this count, but I think this year is probably going to be as good as any chance we've ever had in our club's history to try and get that title. Quietly confident, not getting ahead of myself, but realistically, we're all in this team. Let's get behind them. Can't wait for the next game. Enjoy the bye week. I'm going to be doing a few, from a fan perspective, videos over the break. I'm trying to get a few of the loyal followers, who, particularly those who put on some really cool comments into the YouTube and the like. I'd love to get you guys on here and have a bit of a chat, and let us know about your Warriors journey and what you've made watching them as a fan this year. So hopefully that'll be really interesting. I've got a couple of other interesting interviews coming up as well. Another collaboration with Waz Up, and hopefully Nick from Warriors Fan TV, and a couple of other little hidden insights here that might pop up if they come to fruition. So look forward to keeping you engaged over the break, but take some time, refresh, get mentally prepared for this big run in. I'm the Warriorholic. I'm 200% all in. Let's go.